We're back. Tony DeAngelo here on Connecticut Morning, and I am so pleased to be joined by a man whom I count as a friend. It's my honor and privilege to introduce to you, my Connecticut Morning audience, Bruce Clinton. Bruce Clinton is the founder of BusinessWise LLC, an executive coaching and consulting firm which specializes in helping entrepreneurial organizations solve the people challenges associated with growth and succession by installing timeless leadership processes to obtain and retain top producing talent in all levels of the organization. He is a co-founder of A Search LLC, a retained search firm which takes a unique organizational development approach to find key people. Bruce has been in this field for 30 years. He is a wonderful and keen judge of people. He is a student of the game of management. He is a dad. He is a granddad. He and his wife his wife Susan have 5 children and 8 grandchildren. Sorry about that, Bruce. And he's a former Air Force officer and a man whom I just love talking to. And Bruce, how are you this morning, my friend?
Thanks, Tony, so much for that kind introduction, and I'm so happy to be there.
And I'm happy to have you. You know, we started this off, and I love to set the stage. It's perhaps my growing up watching movies with my father, running them as a kid, and I always felt that everything kind of needed a backdrop, and we showed probably, at least in movie history, the 2 most egregious management, maybe one's egregiously bad, the other's egregiously good, scenes as far as depicting management in movies. The first was the Caine Mutiny with Humphrey Bogart and the Strawberries, where he completely lost control of the ship. They're supposed to be fighting a war, and he's trying to figure out who stole the strawberries. The second one was a scene from Rocky V, from Rocky and Mick, and just these bond between these 2 gentlemen, which had been forged by the trials and travails they had been through for so many years. And you know, we all talk about work and management and going to work and things like that, but where I really enjoy talking to you is you're perhaps the only person that I know that talks about the costs of bad selection and choosing the wrong person. Can you tell us something about that and what you might do to, perhaps, help those of us that are hiring make better choices as we go?
Well, yes, I think this is probably, it should have been one of the earliest, but probably one of the last places that business owners can actually increase their bottom line. What's happened is we've done a lot of cost cutting, but recently, let's say in 1999, there was a study by the Psychological Institute, and there's a follow-up study by the Gallup on the true cost of not having the right people in the right place. And if we just they took, let's say, a key person or a management person in an organization, what the Psychological Institute found is when they monetized it and took a bell curve, they found that roughly 17% or 16% of the people were poor producers, and 67 were average, and another 17% or so were top or superior producers. And the Gallup survey kind of mirrored that, and what we found is that if you don't have engaged people and you don't have superior producers, let's say in a management role, it can cost you 96% of the person's compensation. That's money that's being left on the table, which is kind of interesting. So the costs are severe of not having top-notch producers within the organization.
And you really think about it, and this is, perhaps this is something you've studied, but and I like to call this the series of thoughts to drive yourself crazy by. And with every hire in whatever field of endeavor that's taking place, say, today or this week, going into a year, 2 years, 3 years, and whatever the case may be, and this is me asking the question to myself, how many of those hires are successful, as you say, how many of those are superior producers, and how many of those fall by the wayside at great cost, and what is that cost? I mean, it's got to be staggering.
It is staggering, but there's another cost that I found in closely held businesses, and that's the angst that the hiring manager goes through when they have somebody that is just average or less than average, and the person, they like the person, and yet they're not doing the job. That's another cost. That's a strain, that's a pressure, that's an anxiety, that's a stress that's on both parties, and perhaps even on the balance of the team that's there.
And you know, that's really a very wise old basketball coach of many years prior. Some of our viewers may know him, Red Auerbach, who was the Boston Celtics head coach, later became the GM. He had a saying, which has stuck with me for many years, saying that you can't make chicken salad with chicken feathers. And I guess what it really comes down to is, now you've got this, whatever you want to call it, this nice enough guy in a small enough business who the owner kind of likes and might be, you know, using the Charlie Chan term, number one son, and you know, he's not really getting to where he needs to. And is there, more often than not, do you really find this person really doesn't have the DNA, or are they just kind of being improperly coached? And it's probably...
Well, I think...
No, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean...
No,
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, and it's just in saying that, it's probably you know, no one size fits all, but you know, kindly provide us your thoughts on that.
Well, I think the coaching part becomes a lot easier when you hire somebody that fits their position. And when you talk about fit, you talk about having the required and desired experience and the required and desired, perhaps, education for a position. That's the tip of the iceberg. But if we can get that down and understand those metrics, but there's another metric, which is the soft skills, and that's what, if you look at an iceberg and you see the tip of the iceberg, but 90% of it's below the surface, and these are the issues that are the traits or the knowledge that we need to acquire before we hire somebody. So what needs to be done is a very disciplined approach to determine what's really required by the job, and understand the soft skills as well as the hard skills. And that's not done very well, okay? And then the next part of it is to really make sure that the candidate fits the requirements of the position. There's not a lot done in that in the early stages, because we all think we will know it when we see it. And there's a study that was done that in the first 4 minutes of an interview, you know, generally the 67% of the cases, the person doing the hiring or the interviewing has made a decision in the first 4 minutes, either not to hire or to hire the person. Now, they don't hire them at that point of view, but they may think this is a good person, so the more they hear and the more they see reinforces that very early thought. And also, some people don't interview well, so if you're a good interviewer, you can pull the best out of people, and you may miss somebody that you've ruled out because you didn't like the color of the tie they had on that day.
It's, you know, it's really something, and you've hit on a number of things as far as that, and this is, we have people who are watching us today that I am sure, just because of the world that we all live in, want to find employment. And you've said something there very profound, which is that 4-minute window is really what determines if you make the first cut. So it's the first impressions thing is so very important. But I just wanted to make a mention of that. But you did make a statement here: hard skills and soft skills. I believe I know what you mean, but can you better elaborate that for our viewers?
Sure. I would say the hard skills are the I can use certain softwares. Mm-hmm. I've had 4 years of management experience if that's what's required for the job. I have a BA degree or a master's degree if that's what's required for the job. So those I call those hard skills, where I can lift 50 pounds, you know, whatever the job requires. but the soft skills are equally, and if not more important. And I look at those things as how a person learns, how a person thinks, how they process and communicate, what their skills are, what their comprehension is for numbers, as well as in communication. And every job requires a different kind of speed of learning. So we use some assessments, or we have our clients use assessments to figure that out. And then there's basic behaviors, and that's kind of the can-do for every job. And it varies from position to position. And then you think about thinking stuff, about behaviors, how a person's going to act on the job. Are they going to be objective decision makers? Are they going to be, does it require a certain amount of assertiveness or sociability? Are they manageable, or they have to be managed all the time? Are they independent? Those are just some of the things you manage. And then you couple that's with how the person is going to do the job, with interests. In other words, is the person going to be engaged in the job, really do the job? Many people have the behaviors and perhaps even the background and the thinking style to do the job, but they get into the job and it doesn't reflect their interests, what they're really passionate about. So all these things are part of being engaged in a job. I look at selection, just to run off a little bit here, as the beginning or the beginning of the end. If you bring in somebody that fits their job, then any kind of training that you do and the fast growth expectations are likely to occur. But if a person doesn't fit the job, you're going to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to get productivity out of somebody that may be a great person, but a bad fit for that certain position.
Well, you hit on a number of different things here, and I can remember myself about 20 years ago. I had left a very large, Park Avenue law firm to go to work in a smaller law firm in Stamford, and the thing which hit me immediately, the firm in Stamford was, the firm I left was multinational, in continents all over the country, and I had responsibility for a few cities in my particular area of discipline. But I went to the smaller firm and I thought, well, this is really going to be great. Now I'll be able to sort of sink my teeth into what I'm doing here and not have to get involved with any of the big firm hubbub and the hippie shake, so to speak. And I was immediately, probably in a week or so, I realized that I wasn't going to be happy because I didn't have the chemistry nor the culture for this particular group of folks who more or less had developed their own chemistry and culture over time. I mean, I tried, I just couldn't really seem to fit. I did okay, I produced, but I was really unhappy. I ended up starting what I did largely because I was unhappy at what I was doing there. And I guess what I really want to get really to as far as this is concerned is it really a case of, in the selection process, that you really need to look at a person who fits a certain culture, or is it a case of, well, if they've got what we need, what can we do to get them to perhaps sort of make, maybe not a shift off the moral end table, but sort of a paradigm shift to kind of accommodate what this new business might be doing, where they may be desired because of their hard skills?
Well, some people are not adaptable. Again, I hate to just talk about assessments, but there's so much information that can be gathered from assessments. Let's assume that this organization doesn't do any kind of training. I'm not assuming your situation was that, but let's assume that you're talking about culture, and in this culture, you're thrown out there. There's no training, etc. You have to. It's a tough culture. You have to be thick-skinned to survive in that culture. You may have the same background, the same skill set, to be able to do the work. But in this culture, this is what's going to be required. So if you thrive in a culture where it's more collaborative and it's not silos, where people work well together, if you require a little bit of, not terribly independent, you're maybe on the lower end of being very independent, therefore you're more dependent on structure and people, working closely with you, and if you have to be very decisive and you're just, you're not sure of yourself necessarily, and you're not necessarily decisive, and you don't know what's required from you in that position. That's a cultural thing. I've just described two cultures. One is where you're going to get a lot of help, and one where you're not, where you're going to have to be a survivor. And those are measurable behaviors that
it's the East to the West, yeah, for sure.
And they reflect the chemistry of an organization. So why does one salesperson in the same industry thrive in one organization and not thrive in the other? And it's chemistry, it's the culture.
And I think we've done all of this and have discussed this to say that your goal in finding, in screening and getting to this thing is really finding the people that will fit a particular mousetrap and will thrive on that because of their personal skills and their technical skills. And it's more so, what I'm really getting from you is that the chemistry and the culture part is maybe not quite as important as the technical side, but it's up there.
Oh, it's really up there. It's really, well, you can't take somebody that needs to have a heavy degree of engineering skills and not have that training and perform on the job. But the skills are very important for very specific jobs. But the culture is equally as important.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really getting that. And just going back to something that we had in the beginning of the discussion where you had said that the costs of whatever you want to call it, an average producer, really, I think we came out of an environment, at least in the late 90s and the early 2000s, where I kind of call it the era of overbidding for mediocre talent. It was, I mean, you couldn't get people to work, so they got into bidding wars, and then we kind of sort of went up and down through that, through 9/11, through the Bush era, and 2008 the world kind of became a lot different in so many respects, and what I've noticed, maybe not in every single case, because I might work a day here in New Haven and I'll drive home or pick up my friend and I'm shaking my head saying, I don't know how some of these people remain employed. But it's the kind of thing as far as people who are average producers, or my mother might say bumps on a log, or that sort of thing. In your estimation, can you get some of them to more or less sort of seek a higher power here relative to production? Or is it the kind of thing where we're back to the chicken salad and the chicken feathers, that you really need the raw ingredients in order to get somebody average, in order to get them to, produce in a superior manner?
Well, that's, I think you can raise, again, fit. To me, if somebody fits the position, they have the potential to be above average. Okay, and we're looking for people that are skewed. If you take a bell curve, more towards the end of a scale of 1 to 10, we're looking, where 5 is really the middle of the. We're looking for 6, 7s, and 8s. Mm-hmm. People that have above average skills and fit the position, and with good leadership can thrive on the job. So it's really both. Engagement studies that we do, we have a study that we can do with an organization to determine the degree of engagement, and we can compare that with norms, but it can also be broken down to the two primary reasons why people aren't engaged at work, and one of them, of course, was with your introductory films. Management or their lack of leadership is certainly one reason for the lack of engagement, and the other one is not being well fit for their job.
And that is
dissatisfaction on the job could be because they don't fit the job.
And that is so critical, and why it would be so critical to get you involved early on, because you can assess what's happening and say, well, this is a person who will fit your dynamic as opposed to someone else's. And it leads me to something, and I sit here in this chair and I realize that I'm not saying, you know, personally as a professional I'm ready for the glue factory. Some people, of course, may doubt that vehemently, but there's going to come a day when, you know, I'm at the age I'm at. You know, I'm closer to 60 than I am 50, and I'm not going to be here as long as I might think I'm going to be. And there's a lot of people like me who have worked and built businesses and have been through the ups and downs and that sort of thing. And there's this whole generation of, shall we say, or as you have said in your written materials, which are fantastic, by the way, baby boomer managers and finding people who can take the reins from this point forward. And what do you run into? Now, here's me. I'm your typical baby boomer owner-manager. Tell me about myself. What difficulties will you have in convincing me that you know, what I need to do in order to get somebody here who's actually going to do the thing right, and I'll actually have the confidence to walk away from it at some point?
Well, it's hard to convince somebody before they're ready. It's just a matter of looking at some demographics. There's certainly a known fact that the baby boomer is the largest generation, followed by a smaller generation. And let's assume that many businesses and professional practices are owned by baby boomers. There's going to be a real shortage of people that are ready to take over those businesses. So part of your exit plan is to try to, you know, have some kind of annuitize your business, either through an internal sale or to continue it as long as possible as a source of income. And many times businesses are a great source of income. It's an asset. And the people that you leave behind, the depth of leadership, allows you to have more options into what you want to do. And to answer directly your question, many people start too late to think about that. The process is going to take probably a little bit longer than you think.
Oh, for certain.
All of a sudden say, I'm going to leave my business, or I'm going to sell my business, or turn my practice over.
Yes, certainly.
It's preparation.
And it is. You know, my late wife would also say, you know, this is the baby I never had, and you know, with certain emotions, that comment has remained to me to this day. But that's, you know, that's where we live. That's what it's like. Actually,
can I tell you a story?
No, certainly.
Can I tell you a brief situation, maybe the analogy? I just recently worked with a small law firm, and obviously I'm not going to name names at all, but where the senior partner really was thinking of retiring, but was not really sure that the other partners were ready to, you know, take over or even capable of taking over. But what we were able to do is to go through a sharing of personal and business goals with the senior lawyers that were there. The senior partner and the person would be his successor, and be able to come to an understanding of they really did have similar goals, and to decide how we could make this transition and how it would work. And the senior partner, you know, that I've known for a long time, truly wanted to develop a legacy and leave something behind, and had still some modest goals that would not break the practice, where he could continue to work or be above counsel. And just through the transparency of all this and the ability to discuss personal and business goals, they were able to work out a plan where they could go down that road, but also work out you know, some understanding of, if this wasn't working and the revenues weren't coming in the way they should, they had another, you know, path that could be taken that would not disrupt the lives of the people that were involved in the practice. And so those, you know, this transparency, this communication, this openness is going to be a part that's very essential.
That's, put it this way, and I say that to everybody here, as far as you have to speak up, and I say it to clients, I say it to the people that work here. It's the strong silent type is something of the days of the movies gone by, and you really have to, and I couldn't agree with you more. In our rapidly closing minutes, and I say that with great sorrow, I would like for you to tell our viewers, friends, and fans where you can be reached and how they can benefit of what I think is a, just a wonderful service you provide in choosing the right person for smaller to mid-sized businesses.
Right. Just to put it in a nutshell, what I do is I help business owners install systems to both obtain and retain top producing talent through their organization. So it's their system. They're not going to be dependent upon me forever. But I have a website, and on the website, if they go to that site, they can download a book that I wrote, which has a lot of the stuff that we talked about in it. It's an ebook. It's fairly substantial, but it's a.
I've read it. It's great.
Okay. Well, it's called The Secrets of Building a Great Organization, what your lawyer and accountant can't tell you. So for the audience that are lawyers and accountants, you can take a shot at me too. But it's kind of done with tongue in cheek, and they'll admit it if they read the book. The website is business hyphen or dash hyphen wise WISE.com, and right on the home page is that book. And of course, if anybody is interested in having a personal discussion, I've shared with you that I'm very open to do that because I know you have a following, and it'll be confidential and there'll be no cost to it. My number is 203-458-1219. That's 203-458-1219.
And let me just say to our viewers that this is the best time if you are in a situation where you can benefit from Bruce's services. It's the best time you're going to spend, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll save yourself a ton of travail and angst. And Bruce has a marvelous perception, and he's able to cut right to the matter of things, and he is a dear friend and a dear man, and someone who I'm so pleased to know. Bruce Clinton of Business Wise LLC. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I hope to see you real soon. And
thank you, Tony.
Thank you for all our viewers on Connecticut Morning.
Thank you again. It's a pleasure to be here. You are a good friend.
Same here, pal. We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. That was Bruce Clinton of Business Wise LLC. So happy to have him here. We're going to go to a commercial, and we're going to show you a real fun clip concerning our next guest, Denny McLean. Yes, the Denny McLean. And Tony DeAngelo here on Connecticut Morning. We'll be back real soon, right after this.
Deep beneath the cover of another perfect wonder, where it's so white as snow, privately divided by a world so undecided, and there's nowhere to go. In between the cover of another perfect wonder, and it's so white as snow, running through the field where all my tracks will be concealed, and there's nowhere to go. Oh! When to descend to a man for a friend,